Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be my new Venom 2, Spider-Man, and Morbius video. Sony just blew up their movie schedule and is causing a bunch of changes to the way Spider-Man is crossing over into the Venom movies. So we got some footage to break down. I'll talk about what's going on with Spider-Man in the Sony movies. That's Venom 2 and Morbius right now. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We're doing an Amazon giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave all your theories about Spider-Man inside Venom 2 in the Morbius movie. So we'll start with the big announcements first, then I'll talk about the Spider-Man, Venom 2, and Morbius footage. Everyone cue up the Daily Bugle to see how J. Jonah Jameson is going to blame Spider-Man for all this virus in the movie delays. But going down the list, starting with number 5, if you didn't see the big announcement yesterday, it was right at the end of the day, Sony finally caved to the virus and canceled all the release dates for the movies that were supposed to come out this summer. Not just the Morbius movie, but most people just saw that and said, oh, what's going to happen now? Thankfully, Sony included some more details about what it's actually planning on doing next. So Morbius is supposed to come out March 19th, 2021. Pretty big change. Originally, everyone thought that Morbius would be safe from the blowback because it wasn't coming out till right after Comic-Con at the end of July, late summer. Should be fine, people will be going to movies by then. Seems like Sony is a little bit worried about that. Maybe people will not be going to see movies in July. They've also delayed the release date of their special untitled mystery Spider-Man movie that was coming out next October as well. We still don't know what that is officially, but it's going to be another big Spider-Man spin-off movie set within the Venom universe. Number 4. Here's the thing though, you hear Sony is moving all the release dates for its summer movies, and you remember Venom 2 is also coming out just a little while after that later this year, and you start to panic. Wait a minute, what's going to happen to Venom 2? Within that announcement that Sony made though, they claimed Venom 2 would still come out in October later this year, despite the fact that they're actually closer to finishing the Morbius movie. They've been working on Morbius way longer than they've been working on Venom 2. So it's great that they're not delaying Venom 2, something to look forward to later this year. We're just going to need you to prove it and release that Venom 2 trailer that you promised us earlier. But if Sony and Marvel are working together to set up Tom Holland's Spider-Man crossover with all the Sony Venom movies and their spin-offs, like Morbius is a spin-off of the Venom movie, and then the Sinister Six team setup that they're doing, and all that's supposed to start in the Morbius movie, as we saw from all those Spider-Man Easter eggs in the Morbius trailer, then continue on with even bigger Easter eggs and crossover during Venom 2. Number 3, why would they choose to release Morbius next year after Venom 2, instead of just releasing Morbius in October and moving Venom 2 to early next year? It'd be kind of like Marvel releasing Avengers Endgame before Avengers Infinity War. Just really weird, like you're missing all the setup stuff before you do full-blown crossover stuff. Well, according to all the news reports that the Hollywood trades were filing last night after the big Sony announcement about the Spider-Man movie changes, the real reason Sony delayed the Morbius movie isn't because it's afraid no one's going to go to theaters in July. They claim that Sony is actually trying to hedge their bets for early 2021 and fill a big hole in their release schedule for that early part of the year. Because what you don't realize is that the problem Sony and a lot of other movie studios, including Marvel, have is that they were supposed to be filming movies right now, like Sony was supposed to be filming Tom Holland's Uncharted movie, if you ever thought that movie would happen. The Uncharted movie was originally supposed to come out in March next year, but last month when the virus blew up Hollywood and everyone had to stop filming movies and TV shows all over the world, all the movies that were supposed to come out early next year have now been delayed to later in next year. So even though Sony could have just pushed Morbius to later this year, they just needed a really big movie to release early next year, and their Spider-Man Venom spin-off movies have just been earning them dump trucks of cash. Even if you didn't like the Venom movie, it earned a giant pile of cash. This is also something that's affecting Marvel with their movies right now too in the MCU, but I'll do a separate Marvel video because they made a bunch of different changes. But number 2, we have a situation now where all the Spider-Man Morbius stuff that's supposed to set up Venom 2 Spider-Man crossover isn't happening in the right order. What were those scenes going to look like, and what was the story going to be, and how are they going to fix it so that it all makes sense in the timeline when we see it in the right order? So first thing, Tom Holland wasn't supposed to have a full-blown cameo scene during Morbius. After test screenings recently, it was just reported that during the Morbius movie, this Vulture scene with Michael Keaton's Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming was happening at the same prison that Carnage was being held at the end of the first Venom movie. Supposedly, that Vulture cameo scene implied that Cletus Cassidy had not yet gotten the Carnage symbiote. It was still just Cletus Cassidy chilling out in prison. But the Morbius character was supposed to have been captured by Tyrese's character in the FBI, thrown in that same prison, then eventually break out using his new abilities. And during that is when you see the Vulture cameo. They just used that opportunity to also break out of prison, where they would start setting up the Sinister Six, because the Scorpion was also supposed to show up during that, or at least be referenced in some way. We're putting a squad together, let's go do some crime. During that big prison bust out, you were supposed to see some sort of Cletus Cassidy breakout that would then lead into the Venom 2 movie explaining how he got out of prison. But that was supposed to be the end of the Vulture Sinister Six scenes, just really quick setup for future Sinister Six stuff. I'm sure they paid Michael Keaton millions and millions of dollars for his 2 minutes of screen time. That Spider-Man scene from the Morbius trailer we all saw wasn't supposed to happen till later in the movie, but Morbius literally just walks past the graffiti in an alleyway and that's it. The suit was supposed to have been changed to Tom Holland's new Spider-Man Far From Home suit by the time the movie came out, so that it all made sense. The murderer graffiti would be on top of his Far From Home suit, referencing the end of Spider-Man Far From Home and Mysterio's death. We don't have as much information about what Spider-Man scenes during Venom 2 are supposed to look like, other than Sony was just trying to get Tom Holland to sign a new deal to have a full-blown cameo scene. But being realistic, I think that was just supposed to be a quick 10-second cameo scene showing him on the run, John Wick 3 style, Spider-Man work from home. Before the big outbreak, the memes were all about Spider-Man being homeless, can't go home, Spider-Man hunted. Now it's all about him being trapped inside his home.
I'm going to nominate a bunch of people. So we've got Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pratt, RDJ, the Russo brothers, Karen Gillan, Elizabeth Olsen, Mark Ruffalo, Dave Bautista, Chadwick Boseman, The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal, Hugh Jackman. I cannot wait for his video. All right, here we go. 10 push-ups. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, let's get it, everybody.
There've been a couple big Spider-Man 3 announcements in the past day too, so I will do a new Spider-Man 3 video at some point. Big couple years for Spider-Man coming up with all the different movies that he's appearing in. But number one, WTF, now that the order of all these cameo scenes and Easter eggs have been changed, what Sony has to do now is change the Venom 2 Spider-Man cameo a little so that it doesn't reference too much stuff from the Morbius movie that you would have had to have seen in order for it all to make sense. Like, just have Spider-Man cameo at the end of the Venom movie, implying that there's going to be a Spider-Man Venom crossover in a future movie. Think about the way Sony engineered the Morbius trailer with that weird Tobey Maguire Spider-Man suit referencing Spider-Man Far From Home. It didn't totally make sense, like fans were thinking multiverse, crazy Tobey Maguire Easter eggs, but apparently the reason why the Tobey Maguire suit was in there was just because Sony wanted to slap something in really quickly and wasn't thinking too much about the continuity or the larger implications. So if they're not thinking too much about that making sense, they're probably not too worried about the Venom 2 Morbius cameo scenes happening in the wrong order and it not making sense either. That's okay, that's what YouTube breakdown videos are for. The really easy fix that they can have, though, is just change some of their J. Jonah Jameson cameo scenes so that when he's yelling about Spider-Man in the background in the Morbius movie and in Venom 2, they just have him referencing Spider-Man, Venom, and Morbius in the timeline so that it all makes sense together. We don't know a lot about what's happening with J. Jonah Jameson during Venom 2, only that he's supposed to cameo during Morbius and Venom 2 and just yell about Spider-Man in the background, pretty much the same way that the Spider-Man PS4 game used that character. In better news, there were a lot of reports about Sony releasing a bigger Venom 2 trailer sometime really soon. If they wind up doing that, of course I'll do a video for it. As long as you have alerts enabled for my channel, you should see that video when I post it. The main reason why Sony didn't delay Venom 2 is because it's coming out later in October after they think people will be seeing movies again, and they expect Venom 2 to be a much bigger box office earner than the Morbius movie. But everyone, let me know in the comments, how do you think that Sony is going to change all the Spider-Man stuff in the Morbius movie and Venom 2 so that it all makes sense if they release Venom 2 before the Morbius movie? While I was making this video, there were also a bunch of announcements about Spider-Man 3 and the other Marvel movies, so I'll try to make that video as soon as possible, but leave all your requests and big questions in the comments below. I'll name a new giveaway winner when I post my next big Marvel video. Everyone click here for my breakdown of that new Marvel Eternals footage, and click here for my breakdown of the new Marvel Weapon X scenes. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, I'll see you guys tonight.